So by request, today's topic is going to be reversals. This is one of the more crucial aspects of a match. It can literally make or break it. Knowing when to reverse and when not to reverse, and what to follow up with if you reverse, is vital. It can either deteriorate the quality of the match, or it can make people fall in love with it. And I'm going to try and be as specific and as thorough as I possibly can. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take what's easiest for me. I'm going to explain to you 3 things that was easy for me to grasp and understand when to reverse and when not to reverse. And those 3 things would be your character, the story that you're trying to tell in the match, and how long you want that match to be. Those 3 things can help you know when and when not to reverse. So I'm going to use myself as an example. So when it comes to character, let's say I was facing Monroe. Now, for those of you who know Monroe, you know that he is way bigger than me. Now, if I were facing Monroe, I would either get my ass kicked from the get-go or stall getting my ass kicked from the get-go. And what I mean by stall it is I would find ways to avoid him but still be in contact with him. Like if I wanted to prolong my beating, I would do evasive moves or slippery moves, moves that look like he can't catch me, like a drop kick to the back. That would probably be one of the first things that I do. That can be followed up into a drop toe hold. Things that make him look strong, but also things that make me look like the smaller guy. Not necessarily scared of him, but not wanting to get into that physical type of match with him. Or, what I usually do with Monroe, even though we're weight classes apart, as soon as that bell rings, we can just start beating the crap out of each other. We can go the story route. And if we go the story route, it would just help the match escalate even more. And when I say story route, me and Monroe on screen, we're not exactly the best of friends. So if we were to start beating the crap out of each other with punches from the time the bell rings, that will help tell the story of the match. Even though it's not making me look strong or him look strong, it will make him look strong eventually once I give up and say, okay, he should take control here. And to know when you should say, okay, this person should take control here, is just to be selfless. If you've done enough, sometimes not doing anything is doing more. And since I'm smaller than Monroe, it would be fitting for me to just let him take control. And keeping on the subject of storytelling, let's say face versus heel, the heel should always have more control in that match. Always. Now there are some exceptions when it comes to that, because maybe you're in your hometown. There's nothing wrong with the babyface having control at the start of the match if they're in their hometown. But usually, the heel has more control in the beginning parts of the match. Sometimes the majority of the match, the heel has more control. Now in the beginning of a match, whether it be face or heel, heel versus heel, or face versus face, there's nothing wrong with reversing constantly. There's nothing wrong with reversing the chain grapples at the beginning of the match. You just don't want to reverse a chain grapple mid-match. Don't do that. At any point in time, do not reverse a chain grapple mid-match or near the end of the match. If you're going to reverse a chain grapple, do it in the beginning. Don't do it in the middle. If the match has already gone past the fast-paced action, do not reverse chain grapples. It looks weird and it feels really out of place when you do that. Now, let's say you're in the middle of the match, and whoever the heel is, he hard Irish whips you into the corner. And we all know the animation that it gives you once you're hard Irish whipped. That is okay to reverse, because the people watching would assume that this is going to be a high moment, this is going to be a high spot, he's groggy, and he's going to turn around to be met with some high impact move. It's okay to reverse there. But, now this is a very important but, it is only okay to reverse there if and only if you have a good way to further elevate the match. If you're already mid-match, you don't want to reverse and then slow the match down even more, because chances are you've been getting beat down for the latter part, and reversing and slowing the match down would just completely reset everything. It would reset everything that you did prior to reversing. It would reverse everything that the heel was doing while he was working on you. It would just reset everything. So if you're gonna reverse, make sure that you elevate the match. Make sure that you progress it. Even with finishers, if you're gonna reverse a finisher, make sure that you have a way to elevate the match after you reverse it. You don't necessarily have to hit your finisher after you reverse theirs, but you can find a way to either have one of those suspenseful moments, like activating and hitting your comeback, or if you have comeback moment, you can activate and botch your comeback so that the heel can pick up the win anyway. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if some of you have ever seen me do this. Sometimes I'll activate my comeback moment and I'll go through the motions of it, but when it comes to the last part, sometimes I'll botch it. Most of the time I botch it, because if I do botch it, it'll go into the animation of my opponent ducking under my leg, and once I turn around, they can do whatever the hell they want, usually their finisher, and that'll be the end of the match. It makes people think that I'm gonna come back and possibly pick up the win, and it'll have their emotion on a high, and then once they figure out that I botched it, it'll drop it back down again and let them know that the match is over. Essentially toying with people's emotions. Now when it comes to match length, another, probably one of the biggest factors when it comes to reversing. And let me first start off by saying that there's nothing wrong with having a long match. There's nothing wrong with having a 20-minute match as long as you milk the action in the match. If you're going from spot to spot to spot to spot in a matter of 20 minutes, nobody's going to want to watch that match. You can't have a spot fest match and milk it for 20 minutes, because there's just not enough to do in this game that'll allow you to entertain someone for 20 plus minutes doing spots. I'm sorry. People will get bored 5 minutes in. And what I mean by milking the action in the match is that if you want to have a long match with someone, you have to police the things that you do. You have to police what move you do, and you have to police when you do it. You have to police how fast you move to this spot, or how fast you move to something else. And how this ties into knowing when to reverse is that, let's say you're already well into the match and you feel like the match should end because it's gone on long enough. Let's say that's the case. Let's say you're going on 13 or 15 minutes. You have to take one for the team and wait until that perfect opportunity to reverse your opponent. Sometimes, depending on who you're playing, you won't even have to reverse, because that person will know full well that the match is dragging on and that it needs to end. So that person might set you up for an indirect reversal, or a free spot as people like to call it, an opening. An opening to capitalize and to take control and possibly end the match. Let's say you are in control, and if you are in control, this is completely and totally on you. If you're in control and the match is dragging on, it is on you to close the match. It is on you to either set yourself up to win or set up your opponent to win. It's solely on you. Your opponent has nothing to do with it, and he cannot be blamed for how long this match is dragging on. It's your fault. So if you want to close the match, if you want to put the match away, either set yourself up to win or set your opponent up to win ASAP. However that might be, do it. A good worker would do that. A good worker would know when the match is dragging on, and he wouldn't put his opponent in a situation to where he has to reverse his offense. A good worker would set his opponent up to either come back and win or come back and lose. And by doing that, it doesn't force your opponent to reverse. He wouldn't have to reverse if you would just set him up. So if you're not in control, don't worry about how long the match is going on, because it's not on you, it's on the person who's in control. Unless you're like me and get an opportunity to rage super kick, then do that, because I do that from time to time. Okay, so to recap, let me just give you examples of when and when not to reverse. If you're reversing chain grapples in the beginning of the match, completely fine, you can do that. Once it gets past the fast tempo of the match, once it gets past the opening segments of the match, do not reverse chain grapples. For any reason, don't do it. There's nothing wrong with reversing the strikes that are in the chain grapples. After that, like say if you want to, if you want to go back and forth with the strike exchanges, and to end it, you want to reverse that last strike, that's fine. But for chain grapples, don't reverse after the opening segments. Just don't do it. You also don't want to reverse running attacks. Like if someone hits the ropes and they're coming off with a running move, and you don't have control of your character, don't reverse, because they don't want you to reverse. If they want you to reverse, they'll set you up so that you don't have to reverse. All you'd have to do is just hit the A button to do one of your rebound moves. But let me elaborate on that. Let's say I have you on the ground and I'm striking you or whatever, or I did 2 ground grapples. After 2 ground grapples, they get back up anyway. And you're still in that animation of getting back up. Do not reverse me, because I don't want you to. And part of not reversing is also trust. You have to trust your opponent with control to know that he is going to give you control back. So don't be trigger happy, don't be antsy. He's going to give you control back. But however, if I hit the ropes and you do have control over your character, or if you're going to get control over your character once I'm coming back off of the ropes, then you won't even need to reverse, because you're going to meet me with whatever your rebound move or whatever move that you want to do after I come off of the rebound. So reversing would not even be an issue, because you would already know that I want you to catch me with something. Now when it comes to diving moves, reversing a diving move also can either escalate or it can either continue the pace in which the match is going. It doesn't really hurt anything. It's a win-win situation. If you reverse a diving move or an outside dive, it either elevates the match or it keeps the match going in the same pace that it was. So it's a win-win situation. But all in all, if you're playing with someone who knows what they're doing, you won't even need to reverse, because they'll give you so many hints, so many clues, so many chances to catch them. You won't even need to reverse. That is how you can tell a good worker for someone who isn't really that good, because a good worker is thinking more about their opponent than themselves. A good worker will give their opponent more opportunities to do what he wants to do, more so than hog the match. So I hope this explained when and when not to reverse, and how important reversals are in matches. Hopefully I did a good job. If I didn't, let me know. But the next video that I'm going to do will be about selling. And I don't mean selling moves, because the game does that for you. I mean selling moments in a match. So until then, let me know in the comments section if this was actually helpful, because I have no idea whether or not I did a good job explaining this.